Here's the shift that ends the game. Once you control your attention, you control attraction. You've been generous with effort, texting first, explaining yourself, chasing clarity, trying to be the nice guy who never rattles the boat. She goes hot and cold, you second-guess every move, and suddenly you are negotiating for respect you should never have to ask for. It feels random, but it is not. Most men leak power through attention, emotion, and urgency. Women can feel it instantly. There is a better way. It is not tricks or acting tough. It is a calm system built on Stoicism and psychology. When you own your attention, you stop chasing. When you master your emotions, tests lose their teeth. When you build options and standards, you flip the frame without saying a word. In this video, I will give you the simple truths that change everything: why unconditional love is a myth for adults, how scarcity makes your presence valuable, how to detach without going cold, and how quiet confidence creates desire more reliably than words ever could. You will get clear examples, straight language, and a playbook you can use today. No drama, no games, just disciplined action that restores your edge. If you are ready to stop reacting and start leading, stay with me. This may be the moment everything starts to make sense. Let's get into it. Number 1. The illusion of unconditional love. Most men grow up with one dangerous belief, that somewhere out there a woman will love them, no matter what. No matter if they lose focus, stop leading, or let life make them small. We call it unconditional love. But in reality, adult love is built on conditions: respect, safety, energy, and presence. Once those disappear, attraction follows. Let's be clear, this isn't about cynicism, it's about truth. Women don't love weakness, they respond to stability. Love isn't a charity, it's an exchange of energy. The moment a man forgets that, he starts over-giving, over-apologizing, and over-explaining. And that's when she begins to lose respect. Take Robert, 47, from Texas. He was married for 15 years to Claire, 45. When they first met, he was driven, disciplined, and confident. Over time, he got comfortable. He stopped training, stopped setting boundaries, stopped leading. He thought love meant being endlessly agreeable. But Claire didn't see a peaceful man, she saw a man who'd lost his spark. Her tone changed. Her patience faded. Robert tried harder, begged for reassurance, and the harder he tried, the colder she became. That's not cruelty, it's biology. A woman's attraction is tied to how safe and inspired she feels around you. When your energy weakens, her instincts start to protect her from stagnation. She doesn't consciously decide it. Her body simply stops responding. It's not that she stopped loving Robert, it's that she couldn't feel him anymore. And that's the lesson: love without boundaries turns into pity. Real love has structure, rhythm, and tension. Without it, connection dies quietly. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Love only what happens to you and is spun with the thread of your destiny." He didn't mean surrender to weakness. He meant stop clinging to fantasies, accept reality. When you accept that love has terms, you start to live in truth. You stop begging for permanence and start creating polarity. When a man holds his frame, his mission, his self-respect, his focus, love deepens. When he drops it to chase, comfort, love erodes. The difference is emotional leadership. Women feel safest when you're grounded in who you are, not desperate for who they are. Here's the paradox. Most men miss: the more you try to prove you're worthy of unconditional love, the less love you get. But when you hold your line and live your purpose, she feels drawn in naturally. She relaxes when she feels your steadiness. That steadiness is the real unconditional part. It starts with you, not her. Robert eventually learned this the hard way. After the divorce, he rebuilt. His discipline started running again, pursued a business he'd shelved for years, and stopped apologizing for wanting more. Months later, Claire reached out, not because he chased her, but because he'd become magnetic again. That's how polarity works. You don't earn her love, you embody strength, and she feels it. So stop chasing the myth of unconditional love. It doesn't exist not because women are cruel, but because love depends on movement. It lives in energy, respect, and purpose. If that truth hits home, write it below. I create conditions for love. Stick around, because next we'll uncover the second shift that flips attraction completely, why your attention is the real currency, and how giving less of it makes you worth more. Stay with me. Number 2, the power of scarcity. There's one truth that rewires how attraction works. What's abundant loses value, and what's rare becomes magnetic. That applies to money, attention, and most importantly, your presence. Most men never understand this. They pour endless energy into women who haven't earned it. They text first, double text, explain, chase, apologize, and overinvest emotionally. And every time they do, they unknowingly destroy their own value. Attention is the modern currency of desire. When you give it away freely, it becomes cheap. But when you pull it back and direct it toward your purpose, your mission, your peace, everything changes. You start to create scarcity. And scarcity is what women respond to at a deep, primal level. The Stoics knew this principle long before social media turned it into psychology. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Replace possessions with attention, and the lesson becomes timeless. The man who doesn't crave validation controls the interaction. The man who can sit in silence without reaching for his phone, without needing her to reply, without chasing closure, that man becomes unpredictable and therefore desirable." Scarcity doesn't mean coldness. It means control. It means your time and your focus are precious, and you don't hand them out to anyone who simply shows up. You become intentional. You start to ask, who has earned my attention? Who adds peace instead of drama? Here's where most men go wrong. They confuse availability with affection. They think that being always reachable makes them look loyal or loving. But in reality, it makes them forgettable. You cannot miss what never leaves. When you're constantly present, you remove the tension that fuels attraction. When you step back, you restore polarity. And this doesn't just change how women see you, it changes how you see yourself. When you become selective, you begin to notice how much energy you used to waste trying to impress or fix people. You start to realize that not everyone deserves your focus. That realization creates peace, and peace is power. There's a reason why every truly grounded man radiates calm. His attention is under his control. He's not scrolling endlessly or texting anxiously. He's building something, his body, his business, his purpose. And that creates a magnetic silence. Women feel it before you say a word. Seneca wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." Think about that. If your attention is scattered, your energy is diluted. But if you withdraw it from noise and give it to what matters, your presence intensifies. That intensity is what draws people in. You stop chasing validation, and suddenly validation starts chasing you. Scarcity also teaches emotional discipline. When you stop overgiving, you start receiving differently. You stop tolerating inconsistency because you're no longer afraid of being alone. The quiet confidence of "I can walk away" is the loudest statement a man can make. So here's the paradox: when you stop offering your attention freely, it becomes worth chasing. The less you need to be chosen, the more you are. That's not manipulation, it's self-respect in action. You don't build attraction by giving more, you build it by giving less, but with intention. Your silence, your patience, and your focus become your loudest signals. If that resonates with you, write this in the comments: "My attention has value." Because next we'll explore how emotional control turns that scarcity into power, and why the calm man always wins, even when he says nothing. Stay tuned. Number 3. Emotional control is the new seduction. There's a kind of power that every man over 30 eventually discovers, if he's lucky. It's not money, it's not looks, it's emotional control. Because when you can stay calm while everyone else is reacting, you instantly become magnetic. That calm doesn't mean you're cold, it means you're in command. And that command to a woman is pure attraction. Let me give you an example. Thomas, 51, a real estate investor from Florida, started dating Rachel, 42, after his divorce. They clicked quickly, but Rachel had a habit: whenever things felt emotionally intense, she'd pull away. One night she told him, "I just need space," after he tried to clarify a small misunderstanding. The old Thomas would have panicked, texted her, called her, tried to fix it. But this time he remembered something he'd learned through Stoicism. You can't control other people, only your response. So he stayed calm. No chasing, no long messages. He simply replied, "Take all the space you need," and went about his evening. 3 days later, Rachel called, soft voice, warm tone. "I didn't expect you to be so calm," she said. "It actually made me miss you." That moment changed everything. Thomas didn't manipulate her, he stabilized the energy. He didn't need her to validate him, and that made him more attractive than any words could. That's the secret. Emotional control is the new seduction. It's not about what you say, it's about what you don't react to. The man who keeps his cool when things get messy becomes the rarest energy in her world, because most men panic when emotions rise. They argue, explain, overtalk, or withdraw completely. The calm man does neither. He stays steady. Think of emotional control as the art of tension. When you can hold stillness in chaos, people start leaning toward your energy instead of away from it. That's what women instinctively crave, not dominance but grounded leadership. Your calm tells her, "I'm safe, even when things aren't perfect." The Stoics called this ataraxia, a state of inner peace that can't be shaken by external storms. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you practice that truth, you stop trying to control her reactions and you start mastering your own. That's what creates emotional polarity. In modern dating, chaos sells. Everyone is reactive, defensive, chasing the next dopamine hit. That's why a man who's calm, who doesn't raise his voice or explain himself endlessly, feels so rare. Women don't just see it, they feel it in their bodies. Calmness is safety, and safety paradoxically is sexy. Thomas told me later, "Once I stopped reacting, everything slowed down." She opened up more, not less. That's how emotional control flips the dynamic. When your energy stops oscillating with hers, you lead by example. You show that feelings don't have to become fights, and tension doesn't have to become drama. Here's the truth. If you can control your emotions, you control the pace of every interaction. You set the rhythm. You set the tone. That's what real seduction looks like for a mature man. It's not about performance, it's about presence. So the next time she tests your calm, remember, you're not being challenged, you're being observed. How you respond tells her everything she needs to know about your strength. If that resonates with you, drop this below, "My calm leads." Because next we'll talk about freedom, why options aren't about women at all, but about the quiet independence that makes you truly untouchable. Stay tuned. Number 4. Options create freedom. Here's the truth that flips the entire game. A man without options becomes a prisoner of approval. Every text, every silence, every delay becomes a test of his worth. But a man with options, real options, not just dating prospects, moves differently. His energy is relaxed, his tone measured, and his boundaries firm. He doesn't chase because he doesn't have to. Options aren't about having multiple women. They're about having multiple sources of fulfillment. A Stoic man's power doesn't come from how many people he can attract. It comes from how little he needs external validation to feel complete. When you build a life so full that you never need to beg for attention, you instantly become magnetic. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life." It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. That's the essence of options. You stop centering your emotional world around someone else's approval and instead build it around your discipline, your purpose, your values. When you have options, you don't negotiate your standards. You don't tolerate disrespect. You don't cling to uncertainty. Because the truth is, you're not afraid to walk away. And that freedom, the ability to choose peace over drama, is what women find irresistible. Most men misunderstand this. They think options are external money, status, looks. But true options are internal. They come from self-sufficiency. When your happiness isn't held hostage by one person's attention, you regain control of your energy. You speak differently. You move differently. You radiate the kind of calm that can't be faked. That calm communicates one thing: I'm good either way. And that's the most powerful position a man can hold, because it flips the dynamic. Suddenly, she's not the center of your universe, you are. And from that place, connection becomes a choice, not a need. Think about how most relationships fail. It's rarely because of a lack of attraction, it's because of imbalance. One person invests more than the other. One gives up their power, hoping to earn love through effort. But love built on dependency isn't love, it's survival. The moment you learn to create options, you stop surviving relationships and start choosing them consciously. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." That courage, the willingness to walk away when something no longer aligns, is what keeps your masculine energy alive. The man who fears losing her loses himself first. But the man who's willing to lose her never has to beg for her attention. You can feel it when a man has options. He's not reactive. He listens more than he speaks. He can be kind without being weak, generous without being drained. He's not fighting for position because his value doesn't depend on proximity, it's inherent. And that's what every man watching this needs to hear. Your freedom is built through discipline, not indulgence. Every time you build a new skill, invest in your health, create income streams, or simply master stillness, you're building options. You're creating leverage. Because the man with options can say no. He can say, not now. He can say, this doesn't serve me. And every time he does, the world respects him a little more. If you want to learn how to build that kind of freedom, how to develop the mental, emotional, and financial options that make you untouchable, join the members area. Inside, we go deeper into Stoic practices, power habits, and the psychology of independence that flips attraction forever. Now, if this hit home for you, type it in the comments. I choose freedom. Stay tuned, because next we're diving into how self-respect becomes the silent force that reignites attraction without saying a word. Number 5. Self-respect turns her on. Most men think women fall for charm, compliments, or constant reassurance. But that's not what actually draws them in. What turns a woman on at a deep psychological level is self-respect. A man who values himself without needing anyone's approval. A man who doesn't explain his worth, he embodies it. Let's put this into something real. Mark, 43, from Denver, dated Samantha, 38, a few years younger, and full of energy. In the beginning, everything clicked. But over time, Samantha started testing his boundaries, canceling plans last minute, getting distant, then suddenly affectionate again. Mark, like most men, took it personally. He started chasing validation, overcompensating with gifts, compliments, and long texts. The more he tried to please, the less she respected him. One night after she ghosted him for days, Mark finally snapped, but not in anger, in clarity. He said calmly, "Samantha, I like you, but I'm not going to compete for your attention. I know what I bring." Then he stopped calling. No drama, no guilt trip, just quiet distance. And here's the twist: within a week, she reached out. Her tone was different. She said, "I didn't expect you to walk away that easily." Mark hadn't played a game. He had rediscovered his self-respect. That's what shifted the dynamic. Not words, not manipulation, but energy. Women test to find that energy. They're not looking for perfection, they're looking for presence. When she senses you're centered in who you are, she feels safe and intrigued. When she senses you're bending over backward to keep her, she feels pressure and attraction fades. Self-respect is quiet. It's not loud confidence or arrogance. It's in how you handle disappointment, how you respond when someone crosses a boundary, how you choose peace over proving a point. It's in the tone of your no. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." That's the heart of self-respect. If you can't control your emotions, you can't control your boundaries. And if you can't control your boundaries, you give away your power. Mark learned something most men never do. When you hold yourself to a higher standard, you train others how to treat you. He stopped reacting emotionally and started responding rationally. Instead of saying yes to every invitation, he prioritized his time. Instead of waiting on texts, he focused on his business and his fitness. And naturally, people, especially women, began to value him more. The funny thing about self-respect is that it creates attraction without trying. A man who respects himself doesn't beg, argue, or chase, he chooses. That subtle shift changes everything. You move from asking to leading, from needing to deciding, and that shift radiates power. Women can sense that power instantly. It's in your posture, your voice, your eye contact. When you have self-respect, you no longer need to prove your worth. It speaks before you do. And let's be honest, most men lose respect for themselves slowly. They compromise a little here, tolerate a little there, and one day they wake up wondering why the spark is gone. But that spark doesn't leave because of her. It leaves because you gave up the boundaries that made you magnetic. So if you've ever felt like you lost your edge in a relationship, remember this. You don't have to rebuild your confidence. You have to rebuild your respect for yourself. The moment you do, your energy changes. You stop chasing love and love starts chasing you. If that message hits home, type it in the comments. My respect comes first. And stay with me, because next we're breaking down why emotional steadiness, not passion, is the real secret to long-term attraction. Don't go anywhere. Number 6. The masculine calm she can't resist. There's a certain kind of energy that makes women stop and notice. Not loud confidence, not physical dominance, but calm. That grounded, steady presence that says, "I'm not moved by chaos." It's the kind of energy that doesn't need to prove anything, and that's exactly why it's so magnetic. See, most men think attraction is built in what they say or how charming they appear. But real attraction, the kind that lasts, comes from what they don't do. It's the ability to stay composed when things get emotional, to remain centered when someone else is spinning out. That calm is masculine power in its purest form. The Stoics mastered this energy long before modern psychology gave it a name. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That single sentence defines masculine calm. It's not suppression, it's control. It's knowing that chaos outside of you only has power if you let it inside of you. When a man embodies this, something powerful happens in every interaction with a woman. Her emotions may fluctuate. She might be playful one moment and distant the next, but instead of reacting, he observes. He listens. He stays steady. And in doing so, he creates the emotional safety her nervous system craves. Because here's the truth. Women don't test your words. They test your emotional balance. They want to know if your calm is real or fragile. When she pushes, it's not always to challenge your authority. Sometimes it's to see if your energy can hold space for hers. When you respond with irritation or defensiveness, she senses instability. But when you respond with composure, she feels something she can't explain, a quiet trust. That's what calm really does. It doesn't just attract, it regulates. It turns anxiety into comfort, tension into connection. The moment you stop matching her emotions and start mastering your own, the dynamic changes. You become the anchor in the storm. And that calm isn't passive, it's not indifference, it's deep strength. A man rooted in calm doesn't withdraw from emotion, he channels it. He listens without judgment, responds without haste, and acts from clarity instead of impulse. That's the kind of energy that draws her closer, because it makes her feel safe enough to open up. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." The moments that test your calm are the moments that prove your character. When life or love gets difficult and you can remain composed, you show that you're not controlled by emotion. You lead it. That leadership is irresistible. Think about it. Every woman has been around men who react emotionally, who turn small disagreements into drama, who let ego run the show. So when she meets a man who doesn't flinch under pressure, who stays grounded even when she's upset, it's like breathing fresh air. Masculine calm isn't built overnight, it's trained. Through self-discipline, through awareness, through learning when to speak and when to stay silent. You cultivate it by mastering the little moments when you're cut off in traffic, when a message goes unanswered, when life doesn't go as planned. Each small act of restraint builds inner stillness. And when that stillness becomes your nature, women feel it instantly. They can't explain why your presence feels different, but they feel drawn to it. Because in a world full of noise, calm is the loudest frequency. So remember, this real masculinity isn't about power over others, it's about power over yourself. Your calm is your signal, your steadiness is your seduction. If that resonates with you, drop it in the comments. My calm is my strength. Because next we'll explore how this same steadiness turns into subtle control, the moment when you stop reacting and she starts feeling. Stay tuned. Number 7. When you stop reacting, she starts feeling. One of the most powerful shifts a man can make in relationships is this: stop reacting, and you'll start leading. The moment you no longer jump at every text, mood swing, or emotional wave, everything changes. That's when she begins to feel you again, because your stillness creates space for her emotions to surface. Let's make this real. Daniel, 45, from Chicago, had been seeing Laura, 41, for about 6 months. Things were good until they weren't. One week, Laura became distant. She cancelled plans, texted less, and seemed colder. Daniel panicked. He felt it slipping away. So he did what most men do. He reached out, explained, asked if something was wrong. But the more he tried to fix it, the more she pulled back. Finally, a friend told him, "Do nothing. Stop trying to manage her emotions. Just let her feel what she feels." It sounded counterintuitive, but Daniel tried it. He stopped chasing, stopped overanalyzing, and went back to focusing on his own rhythm, his workouts, his projects, his peace. A few days later, Laura texted, "Hey, I've been thinking about you." Her energy flipped. Why? Because Daniel stopped reacting and started being. His silence gave her room to process her emotions, and when she felt that calm absence, her curiosity returned. That's the paradox of masculine energy. When you stop filling the space, she feels it more deeply. You see, emotion is like fire. It needs oxygen to burn. When you react to every spark, you suffocate it. But when you stay calm, the flame either burns out naturally or grows warmer toward you. Either way, you stay in control. Women don't want emotional chaos, they want emotional polarity. They want to feel your steadiness, not your anxiety. When you stop reacting, she finally feels your energy, not the noise of your insecurity. This doesn't mean you go cold or distant. It means you stop letting her emotions dictate your actions. You stop personalizing everything she says or does. You stop performing for approval. When you stop reacting, you show emotional independence, and that's magnetic. The Stoics understood this perfectly. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." In other words, it's not what she says or does that upsets you, it's how you interpret it. The man who understands that holds the ultimate power, because his peace can't be stolen. When Daniel mastered this, something subtle shifted. Laura began to open up again, but more importantly, he stopped needing her reaction to feel validated. That's the real transformation. When your emotional state no longer depends on someone else's behavior, you become unshakable. And here's what happens next. Women start to feel safe enough to be emotional around you. She no longer needs to test you, because your energy doesn't waver. You've proven through stillness that you're not going anywhere, and that steadiness triggers desire on a deeper level. Think about it. Most men think attraction is built through action texts, gifts, plans. But it's actually built through reaction, or rather the lack of it. The man who stays calm in moments of tension stands out instantly, because in a world where everyone reacts, stillness is rare. Daniel once said, "It's crazy, when I stopped trying to fix things, she came closer." That's how this works. When you stop reacting, she finally has the space to feel the absence of your energy, and that absence becomes the most attractive thing in the room. So remember this, your power doesn't come from what you say, it comes from what you withhold. When your peace becomes more important than her approval, that's when you truly lead. If that message hits home, type it in the comments. My silence leads. Because next we'll uncover how detachment done the right way turns calm confidence into lasting attraction. You don't want to miss this. Stay with me. Number 8. Detach to attract. Here's the truth, that every man learns the hard way. The tighter you hold on, the faster she slips away. The more you chase, the further she runs. But when you detach, not from love, but from outcome, that's when the energy shifts completely. Detachment isn't about indifference, it's about emotional mastery. It's about understanding that attraction grows in space, not pressure. The Stoics called this apatheia, not apathy, but peace of mind. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Detachment begins with that principle. When you stop reacting to every change in her behavior, every cold text, every delayed reply, every test, you stop being controlled by her rhythm. You start living by your own. In modern dating, most men are addicted to outcome. They chase certainty. They need to know where things stand, what she's feeling, how to fix what went wrong. But that neediness is what kills attraction. It tells her your emotional balance depends on her attention, and no woman feels safe in that. Detachment flips that script. It's not about playing games. It's about reclaiming your focus. It's saying, "I'm open, but I'm not dependent." When you detach, you remove the invisible pressure that makes her feel cornered. Suddenly, your energy feels lighter, freer, and she starts leaning in. You've seen this dynamic before. When you stopped caring so much, things started flowing. Conversations felt easier. She texted first. She laughed more. That's not luck, it's polarity. Because detachment communicates strength without words. It says, "I'm happy whether you're here or not." That mindset doesn't push her away, it draws her closer. Here's the psychological reason women are emotional mirrors. They reflect the energy you project. When you cling, she feels suffocated. When you pull back with peace, she feels curiosity. Your calm detachment gives her space to feel desire again. The Stoic mindset helps you build that discipline. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." That's the art of masculine energy. You can appreciate her beauty, her presence, her connection without needing to possess it. Because possession is fear in disguise. Fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being alone. When you face that fear and accept it, you become free. Detachment also teaches you one of life's hardest lessons. Not everything meant for you will stay, and not everything that stays is meant for you. When you understand that, you stop gripping so tightly. You realize that true attraction isn't about control, it's about allowing. The more space you give, the more real connection can grow. A Stoic man doesn't chase love. He attracts it through composure. He doesn't try to convince anyone to choose him. He simply lives in a way that makes choosing him feel effortless. That's the power of detachment. You show value by not needing validation. And make no mistake, this kind of energy is rare. It's quiet confidence, not arrogance. It's calm assurance, not emotional coldness. The man who can love deeply and detach gracefully is unstoppable, because he never loses himself in pursuit of someone else. Detachment is how you protect your peace, your focus, and your dignity. It's how you stop chasing things that weaken you, because once you learn to let go, life starts bringing you what truly belongs. So remember this: the man who can walk away calmly will never have to beg to stay. His silence carries more weight than any words ever could. If you feel that truth, type it in the comments "I attract" by letting go. And stick with me, because next we'll go deeper into the hidden game of female psychology and why her tests aren't challenges, they're invitations to prove your strength. Stay tuned. Number 9. The hidden game of female power. Here's something most men never figure out. Women don't use power the same way men do. Men show power through dominance, status, logic, and action. Women express power through emotion, energy, tone, rhythm. It's not manipulation in a malicious sense. It's instinct. And if you don't understand that, you'll always feel like you're losing ground in relationships. Take James, 48, from California. He'd been dating Melissa, 40, for almost a year. Things were steady, until suddenly they weren't. She started pulling back emotionally, canceling plans, making vague comments like, "I just need time." James, feeling the shift, went straight into fix-it mode, texting more, offering reassurance, and trying to analyze what went wrong. The harder he tried, the colder she got. He didn't realize she wasn't pulling away to leave. She was testing his strength. That's the hidden game of female power. It's not about control, it's about feeling safe in your steadiness. When a woman tests you, she's not consciously trying to cause stress. She's subconsciously asking, can I trust this man's energy when I'm emotional? Can he hold his frame when I lose mine? The men who fail these tests see them as attacks. The men who pass them see them as invitations to lead calmly without reacting. When James finally stopped over-explaining and started pulling back, something shifted. Melissa texted first. She said, "I feel like you've changed lately." He hadn't changed. He'd stopped chasing validation. That's when the dynamic flipped. Here's what you need to know. A woman's emotional power isn't the enemy, it's her nature. The problem is when you confuse emotion for logic. Women don't test facts, they test feeling. They don't respond to words, they respond to energy. That's why explaining rarely works, but calm silence does. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." That's exactly how you win this hidden game. You can't control her tests, but you can control your reactions. You can remain centered, respectful, and grounded no matter how unpredictable things get. That's what makes you the anchor in the storm. James eventually realized this. The less he tried to prove himself, the more she respected him. When he stopped reacting emotionally, she started softening. Her feminine energy could finally relax because she felt a man who wouldn't collapse under pressure. That's how you win, not by overpowering her, but by mastering yourself. Female power isn't something to resist. It's something to understand. The moment you see her emotions as information, not threats, you gain an edge most men will never have. And that's what this game really is, a dance of energy. When she moves, you stay centered. When she tests, you stay calm. That's the polarity that keeps desire alive. If you understand that, write this in the comments, "I lead with calm." Because next we'll close it all out with the final transformation, the Stoic man, who ends the game completely, not by fighting it, but by mastering himself. Stay tuned. Number 10. The Stoic man who ends the game. There comes a point in every man's journey where he stops playing. Not because he's tired, bitter, or done with women, but because he's finally mastered himself. That's the moment he becomes the Stoic man who ends the game. This man doesn't chase validation. He doesn't need to win arguments, decode texts, or prove he's worthy. He understands that every test, every silence, every pullback was never about her, it was about him. His growth, his control, his peace. Once he learns to govern his own emotions, no one can manipulate him through theirs. See, the Stoic man doesn't run from desire. He refines it. He doesn't suppress emotion. He channels it. The difference between him and the average man is centeredness. He's not reactive. He's not in a rush. He moves with intention. Whether she stays or goes, whether things work or don't, his equilibrium remains untouched. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The Stoic man lives by that. He doesn't talk about being high value. He embodies it. His presence speaks before his words do. His calm isn't performative. It's earned through years of self-discipline, failure, and awareness. And here's the truth. When a woman meets that kind of man, she feels it immediately. His energy doesn't waver. His silence isn't empty. It's confident. His attention isn't scattered. It's deliberate. He doesn't play games because he doesn't need to. He's already won by mastering the only thing he truly controls, himself. That's why he's untouchable. Emotional manipulation, silent treatment, drama, they lose their grip on him. He doesn't fight the game. He transcends it. The moment he realizes that control over his mind is the real prize, every external test becomes irrelevant. This man has boundaries, but they aren't walls. He can care deeply without losing himself. He can love passionately without becoming dependent. His peace doesn't come from who's beside him, it comes from who he's become. That's the masculine ideal every Stoic aimed for, to live by reason, not reaction. In the end, women are drawn to him not because he's perfect, but because he's predictable in strength. He doesn't need to chase connection. Connection naturally forms around his energy. He inspires trust because his calm isn't an act, it's his nature. And here's the ultimate paradox. When you reach this level, you don't end the game by winning. You end it by realizing it was never worth playing. You were never meant to outsmart women. You were meant to outgrow your need to be validated by them. That's what makes the Stoic man powerful. Not his dominance, not his strategy, but his peace. He's done performing. He simply is. And in a world full of noise, confusion, and endless power struggles, that kind of stillness is the loudest signal of all. That's the man who ends the game by walking above it. That's it for today, gentlemen. We've broken down the hidden dynamics of attraction, why women respond to strength, calm, and self-respect more than words or effort. You've learned that the real power isn't in chasing, reacting, or proving yourself. It's in mastering your emotions, controlling your attention, and standing firm in your peace. Because when you become the Stoic man, disciplined, grounded, and unshakable, you don't need to play the game anymore. You end it. If you want to go deeper into this journey, into building emotional control, inner confidence, and quiet power, join the members area. Inside, you'll get exclusive lessons, Stoic frameworks, and real-life guidance to help you master yourself in every area of life. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.